Almost 1 year has passed since Project L's reveal on League of Legends' 10th anniversary. Sadly, fighting games take a long time to make, but in the meantime I decided to make this video with my predictions for the game, as well as stuff that I want to be included. Gimmicks. This one was basically already confirmed in the short teasers. If you look closely next to Katarina's and Darius' meters, you can see some symbols. For Katarina, I assume those are daggers, and for Darius it's the symbol of the Noxus region. These are reminiscent of other fighting games mechanics, for example the character power from Injustice. They serve to indicate the character's gimmick or a special move that only they have access to with specific properties. In League, this would be something similar to the character's passive, but suited to a fighting game. Some ideas I have in mind are, for example, Ekko's gimmick could make him go back in time, similar to Gera's reverse time special from Mortal Kombat 11. Another example could be Jhin having a meter displaying 4 bullets and some of his attacks wasting bullets, and if any of his attacks are done using the 4th bullet, it will deal double the damage. The gimmicks could be moves that you can only use after filling a special meter, moves that have special cooldown, or even like Jhin, ammunition based. I'm really curious to see what Radiant Entertainment will come up with. Stages that change each round. Runeterra is now such a detailed world compared to what it was years ago. There has been so much world building that we now have an official map of the world. With it, and with many stories and even the cards from Legends of Runeterra, we know how cool some places in Runeterra look. I plan on making a video just about stages, but the idea that I want to share is, since there are so many places to show, why not combine multiple ones into one stage? Imagine for example a stage based on the Howling Abyss. The first round you fight on top of the bridge, just like in the game mode ARAM, then in the next round you dive deep into the abyss and fight on top of one of the spiked barricades. On the third round you would fight on the bottom of the abyss, on top of an icy layer with the watchers below you and your opponent. Another example could be a stage where you get higher up Mount Targon with each round, lower into the streets of Zon, or even one where in the beginning you can see the sun disk in the distance just to get closer to it in the next round, and in the third round fight inside the capital of Shurima, or even one in Piltover that starts normal but ends up destroyed by Jinx. I like this example specifically because of the story it implies. It shows characters interacting and being themselves. Another example of this could be a stage in Demacia with Galio in the background as a statue, just for him to later wake up to fight some magic dragon that is invading the city. I think this is such a good way of showing the world of Runeterra in a fighting game. And just because characters appear in the background of certain stages doesn't mean they can't be playable characters too. For example, picking Galio in this stage would just cause the Demacians to fight the dragon alone. Ignore canon sizes. Although I like the lore of Runeterra, one thing that happens in League that I hope they maintain in this game is the non-canon sizes of the characters, with the only reason being that this way all champions can still be playable. What I mean by this is that, for example, champions that in the lore are huge, such as Nautilus, Malphite or Galio, should be shrank down to more human sizes, or not necessarily human, they can still be huge, kinda like Abigail from Street Fighter, but at least have a height that makes them fair playable characters. The same goes for small champions like Yordles. Since we will most likely see gods losing against normal humans, it isn't that far-fetched to not represent some characters accurately when it comes to their sizes. Not to mention, League players are already used to this. Tag mechanic. I don't know how likely this is, considering the game seems to be a simple 1v1, but it would be pretty cool if we could play with multiple characters at the same time, in a similar fashion to the Marvel vs. Capcom series. League of Legends is a team game, and even though in fighting games it's mostly one player against another player, having each player control multiple characters would make it so the team aspect of League is still present. But even without a team, I have another idea. Assists. If we end up being able to choose 2 or more characters, assists are an obvious inclusion, but even if we don't get to choose a team, we could still choose assists. Think of it as something similar to Marvel vs. Capcom's special partners. You select them before the fight starts, and during it you can summon them to help you. Initially, I thought of assists as being a way for champions that don't seem all that good in a fighting game to still appear. For example, summoning Soraka to heal you or Janna to send a tornado. Although this could still be a possibility, I prefer the idea of any champion possibly becoming a playable character and any playable character being able to be chosen as an assist, if it wasn't previously chosen as the main character by the player. I think it would be sad for players who are fans of certain characters to see them relegated to just assist characters. And even though I don't see every champion being the cool fighting game character, I think this could bring forward the creativity of Radiant Entertainment to develop movesets for them. Speaking of every champion becoming playable, seasons. There are a lot of champions in League, and it's obvious that not all will be featured in the game when it releases, but this doesn't mean they will never be in the game. Riot will likely approach this game the same way it does with LoL and lore and update the game indefinitely. And with this being said, I think releasing characters in seasons could be perfect. Think of it as something similar to Street Fighter V or Tekken 7. Riot could launch the game with about 20 characters and each season release 5 more, either as paid DLC or not. We still don't know if the game will be free to play, but if it is, this would be a good way for Riot to profit on the game besides cosmetics. Supers. Supers are a staple of modern fighting games, and most likely will be part of this game as well. However, I want more than just one super per character. If I could choose, I would like multiple, with at least one super displaying the character at its fullest, maybe even one-shotting like Guilty Gear's instant kills, although this isn't necessary. Think of Heimerdinger summoning a T-Hex, Jinx coming flying down surfing on a rocket with multiple ones following her, Thresh trapping the soul of his opponent in his lantern. I think seeing cutscenes like this would be very cool, but not every super or expense of the super meter need to be necessarily an attack. I can see one of Silas' supers letting him steal his opponent's super, Kayn having a super where he transforms into one of his forms, or supers that just buff the character like Aatrox's World Ender or Volibear's Stormbringer. Costumes. Regardless of the game's initial price, it's almost a guarantee that we will have costumes for each champion, which could or not be based on the skins from League. There are skins that I like a lot in League, but I wouldn't mind completely new designs just for this game. They could also do something like cross events, where skins get released in both games at the same time. Going back to the skins that are only present in this game, I think it would be cool to have something like classic costumes for each champion, similar to the traditional skins from League, being based on previous versions of the champion, or if the champion doesn't have a previous version, being based on concept art or a younger version of the character from the lore. It would be cool to see old Swain, Pike with Threads, a younger Zed, Senna before she died, and human Cyan in the game this way. But what if both players select the same costume? Well, that's where alternate colors come in. This is another staple of fighting games. They are basically chromas for each costume. Imagine Zed with colors reminiscent of Shen's, Akali's, or Jin's, or Jinx with Vi's colors or even Caitlyn's. Another thing that would be cool is variations. This is something that is also in Street Fighter V. By pressing a specific button before selecting the custom, you get a slightly different version of it. Think of it as something like toggles from League, like Rengar's Night Hunter hood or Aatrox's wings, with the only difference being you select them before the match. Besides the examples from League, I can see the player being able to unmask Zed, Akali and Chen, play as a rusted version of Blitzcrank, play as Pantheon without his helmet, stuff like that. Bosses. This one is pretty straightforward. I want boss battles in the game. I think if done correctly, boss battles in fighting games can be very fun and challenging, and provide some good single player content. I'll also do a video about this topic, but imagine for example fighting Baron Nashor, dragons, or even characters like Captain Farron or Catastrophe, event characters. Now what if I combined unique supers, unique costumes and bosses? Well, this is probably my most wild idea, but what I'm thinking is something along the lines of Shadow Lady from Street Fighter and Echo Fighters from Smash Bros. Imagine having, for example, Darkstar Thresh as a boss. His moveset for the most part would be similar to Thresh, but he would have better stats, unique assists, for example summoning his arrow, Darkstar Varus, and unique supers, or at least modified supers. Before, I said that Thresh could have a super where he pulls his opponent's soul into the lantern. Well, this version would pull the player into the Darkstar instead. Having these special non-playable characters based on other universes obviously means having stages based on said universe, which was something I forgot to mention before. The player would obviously fight Darkstar Thresh in a stage called Cosmic Ruins, but I don't think these special event characters have all to be based on legendary skins or even in skins in general. I can see Blood Moon Aatrox being a boss, as well as the default Aatrox but always in his World Ender form, or even Shogath but in his Giant form. I have many ideas for this, so I will leave them for another video. With this being said, these were my top 10 ideas for the upcoming Project L. I'm really looking forward to playing this game and hope we get some news about it in this year's anniversary. With this being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.